What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Level Up Your Mental. My name is Ariel, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor. And today we have another topic that we are talking about, something that I hear a lot from people. And this topic is people pleasing. Are you a people pleaser? I think that's a question that people have to think within themselves, but we are going to talk about that today, right? We're going to, list some traits, let you guys know what does it mean to be a people pleaser? What are the traits that come with that? And how do you change that? I think for a lot of people, they might recognize it, but they are worried about other people's feelings and, neglecting themselves. We can learn how to communicate with people, learn how to, take care of others and be there for other people without being a people pleaser. And the sucky part about being a people pleaser is there are a lot of people out there that will notice that someone's a people pleaser and they will take advantage. So, this video is meant to be informative. It's meant to help people recognize these traits and these things and for them to be able to learn how to change and to not be that person that they're used to, because it can be very draining being a people person. A lot of things happen where a lot of people will take advantage of people pleasers and it sucks, but that's how the world works. Not everybody is nice, not everybody is considerate of others. A lot of people will just take advantage of situations because they can't. So, it's best for you to look out for yourself at the end of the day and for you to recognize what it is that's going on, how you want to change it, and what exactly you want to do. Let's get into what are the traits of being a people pleaser. How do you know that you're a people pleaser, right? I think there's a lot of things that come with it. Low self-worth. Somebody who has, well, not everybody, but people who are people pleasers don't see themselves highly, right? They're not able to stand up for themselves. They're not confident. So a lot of times they hide in the background, but they're willing to do any and everything for everybody else. They accommodate to everyone else's needs. This is along the side of neglecting their own needs. They will go and bend themselves backwards for everybody else, but then they tend to forget about their own needs, right? And that can be a problem. At the end of the day, you are responsible for yourself. I understand that we all have different aspects in our life that we show up for and that we're responsible for, in the sense of being a parent, being a caregiver, things like that. But at the end of the day, you have to take care of yourself. You cannot show up as your best self if you're not taking care of yourself and you're worrying about everybody else. So yes, accommodating everyone else's needs, undermining their own needs, like I just said, goes with the flow that's dictated by others. This is another thing, not standing up for yourself, but just going along with whatever it is that's happening because you want to please other people and you don't want to cause issues, right? And this can lead to a lot, constantly going along with what everybody else is saying and what other people around you are doing. You're not satisfying your own need. You're just going along with whatever because you think that that's best. You don't want to disrupt what it is that's going on. But in all actuality, you're honestly, again, neglecting yourself. You have to put yourself as a priority. If you don't want to do something, don't do it. There are circumstances where we do a lot for the people in our lives because we love them, and I get it. You want to be supportive, but those people also have to understand too that you have your limits, you have your boundaries, and sometimes you don't want to do something. So don't put yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in for somebody else. Is too agreeable, just in general, does not assert themselves, rarely says no. This is a big thing too when it comes to family. A lot of people will dictate their lives and the way that they do things based off of their family. Now, I'm not saying neglect your family. I'm not saying to, completely move away from what your parents are suggesting or whatever the case is, but I think it's important to let your family know that you are a person. You grow up and you start to become your own adult, and not everything that you do that your family and your friends and everybody is going to agree with. And I'm not saying that for things that could be bad. I'm just saying in general, there are people, like certain cultures, that are very work ethic and want their kids to go to school to become a lawyer, become a doctor, things like that. And when it comes to other things like now content creation, doing hair, other stuff that's not the typical going to school for, a lot of families will frown upon that, and that takes a toll on a lot of people because then they end up going to school and doing jobs that they don't want to do because they're so worried about the people in their family and living up to their expectations. But at the end of the day, what tends to happen in that? You tend to have a lot of resentment towards the people in your family, but not only that, you start to hate your job. You hate your job, you hate your life, because now you put yourself in a position that you originally didn't want to be in, but you're doing it because of other people. people. We have to learn to live the life that we want to live so that we can be happy. And our family also has to understand that too, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be miserable in your own life because of everybody else, right? So the other thing would be, what else? They feel valuable when complying with others. They value praise from other people, and that's a big one. A lot of times with people pleasers, they will gravitate towards doing things because they want that attention, they want that value from other people, they want that recognition. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's great. Everybody wants to be praised by someone, something. Everybody wants to be recognized for the work that they're doing. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that at the end of the day, you need to be happy with the things that you are doing. You need to be happy and feel accomplished and feel that you have done something in your life and to be proud about it. You shouldn't be doing everything in your life based off of how everybody else is going to take it, because there's going to come a time where those people won't be around. And at the end of the day, you're going to be with yourself, and you need to be happy with the choices and the things that you have done. So, not valuing yourself and only getting praises from people, and that's where you feel like the value is not a healthy thing. You want to make sure that you see the value within yourself and the things that you're doing, and understanding that you're doing this for yourself at the end of the day, and it's what makes you happy, and you have a right to do that, right? And to go along, they say sorry when no apology is required, takes blame when it's not their fault. They make excuses for the fault of others, and that's not good. We have to let other people take accountability for their actions. If you're always standing up for other people and you're constantly making excuses for them, they will never recognize the things that they've done, and that's not healthy. They need to acknowledge the things that they've done. They need to see the impact that they've had on people, right? You can't constantly take the blame for someone in hopes that they're going to change. And then on top of that, all that negativity that comes with taking the blame for somebody, and then now all that's put onto you, and then the other person is just out living their life, it's not fair for you, right? And you want to make sure that you're not doing that to yourself, right? The other thing is saying sorry when no apology is needed. If you know that you didn't do something wrong, but you want to keep the peace and make sure that everybody else is pleased around you, so you just apologize, that's just something that people are just going to automatically assume. Oh, I can do this to whomever because they'll just apologize and it's just going to be whatever. No, it's not fair. If you did something wrong, yes, apologize, take accountability, but don't apologize on the behalf of somebody else. Let those people recognize what they did wrong. And if they don't recognize it, you can point it out and let them know, but don't take the blame for other people. Don't say sorry when you're not truly sorry, but you just want things to get better, And the other thing that comes with this is having little self-awareness. People pleasers don't have a lot of awareness within themselves. They don't really understand that you are your own person. You can make your own decisions. You can let people know. You can communicate with people. It's okay for people to disagree with you. A lot of the stuff that happens between you and somebody else shouldn't be transactional. It shouldn't make you feel bad to the point that, just because you do this for somebody, they're going to do this. Like, that's an unhealthy relationship, right? So you want to be self-aware when these things are happening, that you can stop yourself and be like, okay, wait, why am I doing this? Is it necessary? Why do I have to be a people pleaser to this person? It's not fair for my own life, right? And at the end of the day, you want to be happy. So again, having little self-awareness is another trait of being a people pleaser. People pleasers don't hold themselves to a high self-regard, and that means as if they don't see themselves and they're not confident and strong enough to really stand within their own values and everything against others, right? They need to tend to the needs of others and thinking that this will fulfill their own emotional needs, which is not good. You should be able to fulfill yourself emotionally without having to do something for somebody else, right? And in addition to that, they spend time worrying about what others think about them. They are not pleasing others out of love. They are doing so out of fear. And nobody wants to do something out of fear. That's not good. Now, this is different if you're challenging yourself to do something as far as career-wise or something, and it's fearful. Sure. Yes, you can push yourself with the fear to be able to do something. But to do something for somebody because you're scared that something might happen, that's not healthy. At the end of the day, yes, people are always going to have something to say. But it's not healthy to live your life around it's not healthy to spend your time worrying about what others think about you. somebody's always going to have something to say. You can be the most healed person, comfortable in your own skin, showing up the best that you can. Somebody's always going to have something negative to say, right? And that's just within their own right. People are allowed to say the thing that they're going to say. Is it right? No, but people have, the free will to say things. Might not be the right thing, but they do. But at the end of the day, you don't want to live your life based on that. Somebody's always going to have something to say, and you want to show up because you're happy within yourself, and the people around you will learn to accept that. And if they don't, those are not the right people to be around you. But again, you should be able to fulfill your own emotional needs, and you should not be worrying about what others think about you. You should be helping and, taking care of people and supporting them because you love them and you care about them, not because you're scared that if you don't do this, you're not going to be able to have a relationship with them or things are going to go negative. And this is kind of where a lot of kids and a lot of adults tend to build negative relationships as they get older, just based off of having this type of relationship with their parent. A lot of times there are some unhealthy parenting where some kids will be scared of their parent. They'll do any and everything to be able to stay on their good side. And that's not healthy. Your parent is supposed to be your parent. They're supposed to love and guide you. Kids are not perfect. People are not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. But to make every situation you're scared and you're doing these things because you don't want them to feel some type of way or you want to still be in their life, that's not healthy. So we have to learn how to unbreak those habits, right? People pleasers will often go to great lengths to be liked, and they avoid disagreements, right? They don't want to be put in that position where they feel like they're fighting for the other person. They don't want to be in an argument with you. They don't want to be in a disagreement with you, which again is not healthy. People are going to have disagreements. Disagreements are part of being in a relationship with anyone, whether that's, a loving relationship, friendship, family, whatever. You're going to have disagreements, right? Not everybody is going to agree with you on the same thing, but there are healthy disagreements where you can talk with people and you guys can figure it out. But people pleasers will go to the great length where they'll avoid those disagreements. It's like, no, I agree with you, when they really don't. The people pleasing behavior can often lead to resentment. It can lead to relationship burnout, and it just leaves the person feeling extremely drained and exhausted. And if you feel this way, you need to have a self-check within yourself. You need to figure out, what is it that I'm doing and how can I fix this, and understand that if I choose to fix this is within myself, and that's okay, right? Nobody wants to feel drained or exhausted when it comes to being around people. That's a lot of work, and if your friends, your family, or whomever loves you enough, they will understand and they will still be there, even if you disagree with them, right? So we need to make sure that we are communicating with the people that we love and making sure that they understand where we're coming from, and not to think that just because we have a disagreement with them that it's an end-all be-all, right? The other thing with people pleasing is that it's a pattern of behaviors that you engage in to get others to like you, again, to avoid rejection, criticism, embarrassment. You see this a lot in younger kids when they're just starting out in school and they're being around other kids, and kids are mean, and sometimes there are kids, not all kids are the same. There are kids that like certain things, and there are other kids that don't agree with that, and they think that that stuff is weird or nerdy or whatever, and then they're making the kid feel bad. And a lot of times the peer pressure from it all will make the kid be like, oh yeah, you're right, blah blah blah, and now they're neglecting or not doing the things that they want to do because they're worried about everybody else. They're worried about their friends judging them and making them feel bad. And it's kind of just like, you at the end of the day need to do what makes you happy, right? It's kind of hard when you're younger because you're still learning a lot, but this is where the reinforcement comes from, in your own home, and being around the people that make you happy and actually enjoy the things that you like. That's why a lot of people and just kids in general will gravitate and make groups with people that enjoy the same things as them, because it makes you feel comfortable. And you shouldn't have to settle and be friends with someone, just because they're making fun of you for something that you enjoy. We all have different interests, and you shouldn't make somebody feel bad for something that they're interested in, right? Now let's get into, what is the root of people pleasing? Where does this come from? Of course, nobody is born as a people pleaser. This is something that you learn. It could come from your family, it can come from your environment, it comes from different things, right? But what is the ultimate root from someone who's a people pleaser? When it comes to people pleasing, this is tend to be linked to emotional dependency, right? Emotional dependency tends to happen when a person has unmet psychological needs that they may try to satisfy within close interpersonal relationship. Now that basically means as if you were to grow up and your family is not the best person emotionally and you always had to do something in order to make them recognize you or to be able to be loving, then you're going to proceed to do that when you start developing friendships, when you start getting into relationships. People will gravitate towards those people and start being a people pleaser for them because that's what they need. That's what they want. They want that connection. And the best way for them to do it is to be able to say yes and agree to everything that the person has so that they don't lose that person, right? This type of person fears rejection or failure, right? Which could be rooted in early relationships with their friends, with their family. A people pleaser, they've had parents whose love was conditional. As a child, they may have had to earn their parents' love and affection, right? Like I've said before, some parents were not the best, right? Some people were just not meant to be parents, and some kids had the worst experience. And a lot of times what I try to tell people is, as a kid, you don't know any better. You're supposed to be learning from your parents. That's your first relationship that you build, is within your family, is within your parents. But if your parents are not the healthiest people and they weren't emotionally there and they weren't loving, a lot of times you, as a kid, you're trying to get your parents to love you. You're doing everything that you can. You're going to school, you're showing up with the grades. Oh, look, I made this, I did that. And they're just like, whatever. That manifests as an adult. If you never learn to change that habit and your parent still continues to do the same thing, that manifests in you as an adult and how you create your friendships and your relationships and such. You are continuing to do those things, and it's going to be very conditional, right? This also goes with people who have parents that were unavailable emotionally, and parents that were just, inconsistent. This is what I try to tell parents. Your kids, when they're younger, all they want is to spend time with you until they get to the teenage stage, and they start figuring out friendships and they're out doing things socially. But as a little kid, your parents are everything, right? They're the first people that you build a relationship with, and that comes with other people in your family too. So if they're inconsistent and they're not showing up in the ways that you need them to, that's also going to suffer when you start getting older and you start developing relationships with other people, right? People pleasing can also be a response to trauma and other life experiences. People who are people pleasers, they will exhibit fawning in response to complex trauma, right? And fawning is people pleasing to settle conflicts and maintain the approval of others. Sometimes we see this in a lot of abusive relationships. Sometimes the person will stay around even when things are bad. They are begging the person, no, don't leave me. I'll do any and everything to make you stay. And they know the relationship is not good for them, right? This comes a lot with how they grew up, how their parents were, their life experiences, any trauma that they've been through. So sometimes people pleasing can be very deeply rooted, and if we don't recognize these things, it can create a lot of issues for us. So if you notice that you're a people pleaser, or if you see that there's somebody else that you see that they're a people pleaser and it's exhausting for them or even for you, have that conversation with someone, right? Seek out the resources and get the help. You don't want to be like this for the rest of your life. It's going to be very exhausting for you, and your relationships and your friendships won't be meaningful. A lot of time people take advantage. So now you are stuck in a situation where the relationships and friendships that you have is pure conditional and transactional. Nobody wants that. You want genuine friendship and someone who's going to be there for you because they like who you are as a person, right? Moving on to, how do you change this about yourself? What can you do in order to learn how to not be a people pleaser, right? How to do things for yourself and not to feel drained or exhausted when it comes to certain relationships and friendships that you have, right? So the first thing that I would say is, and I know it's for a lot of people won't be in agreement, but therapy definitely helps, right? And this is why I'm here, because I'm a therapist and I provide therapy. But if you have a lot of deeply rooted things, you need help to be able to analyze it and move through it. It's going to be very hard for you to do this on your own because it's a lot of work. And a lot of times it's easier to just give up and to stop doing it. But if you have someone there to explain to you why these things are happening, where it comes from, breaking down the pieces, and holding you accountable while also giving you homework and strategies and things to do, it's going to help guide you through this. And this is why we're here. Again, this is why my job is a job. Like, I am here to help people. It's kind of the same thing with doctors, teachers. Like, we're all here to help people in certain aspects of their life. A doctor is here for medical purposes. A teacher is there for education purposes. A counselor is here. A therapist is here to be able to help you get through the things that you have been through your life and how they are impacting you right now. I think people forget, like I've said before, all the things that you learn as a kid, as you're growing up, affects you as you grow up to be an adult. But you don't want to use that as an excuse to why you act the way that you're acting. There comes a point in your life where you hit a certain age where it's like you can't keep using the things that have happened in your life as an excuse. It's not healthy and it's not right? You have the option to get the help. You're just choosing not to. You might be scared, it might be cultural, or whatever the case may be, but there's resources out there, whichever way you want to do it, whether that's traditional therapy, where there's a certain type of therapy. If you're religious, go to church and speak with the pastor or whomever there to help guide you, but don't try to do this thing on your own and really pressure yourself to change who you are where you don't even know where to start, right? The resources are there to help you. Take advantage of them, right? When working with a therapist, right, they can support you in forming healthy and secure attachment with others. They can let you know what a relationship looks like, why, not it being conditional, what a healthy friendship and relationship is supposed to look like. It's not supposed to be exhausting. It's not supposed to be draining. Of course, you're going to have ups and downs, but at the end of the day, the relationship is supposed to be healthy. They're supposed to accept you for who you are. And then you guys learn how to enjoy each other, right? While also working with a therapist, right, you can set boundaries with others and you can advocate for yourself and your needs. Like I said in the beginning, when it comes to people pleasing, they stay in the back. They just go along and go with the flow and just accept for things for what they are, even though they don't really want to do it. They're just doing it because they don't want to cause any problems or make people feel bad. But once you start getting into the therapy process and you start healing and you start growing, then you start to see, how do I set these boundaries? How do I advocate for myself? And how do I continue to do this as I go through my life, right? Because yes, therapists and everybody else won't be here their whole entire life, but we can at least give you the tools so that you can get through therapy and be able to do the things that you can and eventually leave and be able to prosper through life, right? And some other things when it comes to reducing people-pleasing behaviors would include, reflecting on your desires, your wants, your needs, rather than focusing on what others need or what they want, right? Stop worrying about other people, worry about yourself. Of course, we all have responsibilities, like I said before, showing up as a mom, dad, showing up as a spouse. But at the end of the day, you need to take care of yourself. Before you became all these things, you were your own person. There was a point you weren't born married. You weren't born with kids. There was a point in your life where you were your own person. You got to get back to that. You need to understand what your values are. What are your needs? What are your desires? What are your wants? All these things are important. Once you're able to successfully do these things, then you can contribute and be able to pour yourself into other people. But if you're constantly doing all these things and you're doing it for somebody else, are you ever really happy? I mean, are you really truly living your life? I don't think so. You're not going to essentially be the best version of yourself if you're constantly worrying about everybody else. You got to worry about yourself first, then you can pour everything into everybody else. Learn to set limits with others about what you will and won't tolerate. This comes with boundaries. I don't have to put myself in a situation I don't want to be in. I like, for me personally, I'm at the point in my life where I'm not arguing with anybody. We can have a proper discussion, but once things start yelling and you start getting hostile, what am I having a discussion? It's not even a discussion anymore. It just becomes very, very volatile and it's not helpful. It doesn't help at all. So we have to recognize these things and set limits for ourselves. Once somebody starts raising their voice, once people start to become pushy, it's like, no, I'm good. I'm checked out. I'm going to go do my own thing, right? And you have to learn how to be okay with that. You are your own person. You're allowed to do your own thing, and people have to understand that too. Some people have a social battery that's very, very low. And for them, they would rather do the things that they want to do, and when they're able to hang out with you, they're able to hang out with you, and you have that right. But you got to learn how to set your limits and set those boundaries. Just learning how to say yes to the things that you want to do. Again, not saying, preventing yourself from saying no because you feel bad and you want to be able to help someone. Well, what about yourself? You're gonna go do this thing with this person, but are you happy about it? No, because you're sitting here and you're forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do. I'm not saying stop yourself from doing experiences, sure, but don't force yourself to go do something because of somebody else. We have to learn to say no, especially when it comes to family. That's a big thing that I see a lot of times with people. Like, I don't want to hurt people in my family, but it's like, so when are you ever going to stand up for your own self? Why are you worried about everybody else if they're not even worried about you? If somebody really truly cared and loved about you, they wouldn't force you to go and do something. But a lot of people are selfish. Some people only care about themselves, and it sucks, but we have to recognize when people are taking advantage of us, and for us to be able to step out of that and not let that to be a continued behavior. Because if we don't call people out or remove ourselves from the situation, they're just going to continue to do it to somebody else. And that's a lot, but it does happen. And we have to be aware, and we have to make sure that we don't continue to let this be a bad habit. The other thing is declining invitations to engage in harmful behaviors. I see this a lot as far as in teenagers. They will do things with their friends that they know they would never do. Their parents don't, it's something that their parents are not accepting of, but they're doing it because their friend is telling them to do it, and they don't want to hurt their friends' feelings, or they want to be left out, right? It's kind of hard as a teenager, like I've said before, because you're still growing up and you're still learning things. But as an adult, why are you forcing yourself to go do something you don't want to do? If I don't want to be somewhere and I don't want to go somewhere, I'm not going to go. Like, unless it's a requirement for work or something, why would I go and be miserable, or be engaging in something that I know I wouldn't even do myself? So we have to be aware, right? And making sure that we're declining invitations for things that we don't even want to go to, or we wouldn't even do ourselves, because we're trying to be a people pleaser. And then the other thing is speaking up when something is bothering you, right? We tend to hide and hold in our feelings and not explain things because we're worried about how other people might take it. You could be the nicest person and you could say something in the nicest way with the nicest words. Somebody will still find a way to turn it into something negative, and that's not your fault. You are doing the best that you can by being able to set your boundaries and say the things that you need to say and taking care of yourself. But it's not up to you, and it's not your responsibility for how somebody takes something, right? I think it's important to get the message out there and let the person be aware and know that you said it to them, and then just look and see how they respond. Whether that's verbally, whether that's through their actions, at least you were able to get out what it is that you needed to say, and not sit here and hide in the back and not speak up when something is bothering you. That's uncomfortable. And why do you want to be put in an uncomfortable position for somebody else when they wouldn't even do that for you, right? So these are things that we need to think about. And then the last thing is finding hobbies that you enjoy. Once we start to pull away from these people and we're not being a people pleaser, we have to find things that make us happy. Using that time to do the things that we enjoy. Life can be hard, things can be challenging, but we have to find the joys in life, right? We have to find a balance. There are a lot of things that we are required to do as adults, as people, but in between all of that, we have to find our happiness, and we have to find things that we enjoy. So I always tell my clients, make sure you have a hobby. We get caught up in being a parent, being a student, being a wife, being, all these things that we have titles for, but you were born by yourself. You went through the first half of your life, by yourself without being attached to people besides your family. And you, as a kid, had a hobby. As kids, we have things that have fun because we have time to do that, but you can also do that as an adult. You have the ability to do that because you're an adult and you make your own decisions. Now, don't neglect your responsibilities to be able to do these things, but I think it's important to at least acknowledge that we all need to have some type of hobby, and that's whatever makes us happy, and that is something that we're not necessarily making money from, because I think that can change the hobby and that could be something that turns into pure transactional, but it's something to be able to get our mind off of everything that's going on and just relax and enjoy something that we're not sitting here that we have to worry about. It's just something that I purely enjoy doing, and I'm having fun doing it, right? So I hope with this video you guys were able to get a little bit more information on what a people pleaser is, what are the traits, what does it mean, where does it come from, and how do we learn how to move move past this, right? Essentially, therapy is definitely going to help, but you know, there are some stuff that you can do within yourself if you feel like you're able to change those things. If it's something that you feel like is very challenging, but you do want to change it, seek the help, right? The resources are out there. I always have resources in my bio about how to find a therapist. If you have any questions, you can always reach out. But again, I am going to continue putting out this information. You guys let me know if there's anything else that you would want me to talk about. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please join in on the conversation in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.